Okay, so what I showed you is how to make a cupcake top using the pinch pot method. Now what I'm going to do is show you how to make the top of your cupcake using the coil method. The coil method is a lot trickier. If you've already used it before, it may come a little easier to you. But actually I'm moving my canvas forward because I'm going to use my desk surface to roll out my coils. Coil making involves taking worm-like coils, I call them worms, but they're coils of clay, officially that's what they're called, and I'm rolling them out thin, and I'm going to actually build with these coils. Some of you have made a vase before where you stack the coils or the worms of clay on top of each other, and it makes a nice tall vase. The difference with a cupcake is you're actually going to take your coils and you have to get smaller as they go up, which is a little tricky. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. Between each coil, you do need to slip and score so that it sticks together. So I've got my first coil built. What I'm going to do is take my cupcake base and I'm going to make sure that my coil, my first coil, is the right size. So I'm wrapping it around and measuring, and I'm going to go ahead and slip and score these two little pieces together. Take a little bit of slip and get these guys together. And I'm going to go ahead and place it back on here to make sure that this is a good size for my first coil, and it's going to rest on top of that cupcake base, which it sure looks like it does. So now I've got that initial ring, I can go ahead and start making more coils. Now I'll tell you this, as you get smaller making your coils, the clay sometimes breaks, so we want to make sure that we keep the clay nice and moist. So I'm going to go ahead, after I get my coil rolled, I'm going to add some slip to it so that it works a little bit easier for me, and that slip will also make it maybe so I don't have to be as worried about slipping and scoring between each layer. So I'm going to make some marks on here, and I'm going to make some marks on my coil, and then I'm going to go ahead, a piece broke off, not a big deal, and I'm going to wrap this around. Now when I place this new one around, I'm making it smaller than my first coil, so it's actually being stuck down inside of that first coil a little bit. And I'm going to pinch it together. And this coil actually got around like 1.5 times, which is great. It'll go quicker that way. So now I'm going to go ahead and roll out some more coils again. Again, make sure you're keeping your clay nice and moist. If it's too moist, it'll just stick to the table when you roll out your Alright, I have a nice long coil this time. And rolling the coils is a trick. It's not a trick, it's a skill, and you'll get better at doing it as you go. It might be a little difficult at first. If you start making it in the coil method and you decide, oh my gosh, this is really hard, I'm not sure that I'm really doing a great job at this, you can jump back to the pinch pot method. There's no, it doesn't matter. Just because you decided at the beginning you wanted to do coil doesn't mean you have to in the end if you find that it's frustrating for you. So I'm going to go ahead and keep wrapping this, and notice that it's getting smaller and smaller as I go. And as I get smaller, it's going to be more tempted, or it's going to, I have a greater risk of it breaking, like I just did. So I'm going to smooth these down just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some slip there to help me get that back together. And I'm going to go ahead and keep wrapping. Now I'm pretty close to the point where I could almost add a cherry to the top of this if I want to. I could put something, slip and score something like that, or make a bigger cherry, or do whatever it is I want to. Now you can spend time smoothing this out if you want to. Some people like all the ridges showing. No matter what, once you get your cupcake looking like you want it to, you do want to take some slip on your hands and just do a nice job smoothing everything out so it looks finished and complete and you have nice craftsmanship. So I'm going to make a little bit of a bigger cherry for the top of this. And I'm going to go ahead and slip and score that on. Now this cherry is a little bit on the big side. Instead of hollowing it out, I also could take a sharp tool and poke a hole down through the center of it. I think I'll actually just hollow it out for this demonstration. But so I'm making that like reverse eyeball, and I already have a hole there, so I'm okay. So I can kind of stick it in, make sure my finger can kind of get in there. And so now what I've got is a coil top cupcake. Here's the Coil Method version, and here is the pinch pot method. Both are equally interesting and allow lots of room for creative choices. So in the end, the last kind of thing that you would do to this, besides smoothing it and making sure that your initials are carved into the bottom of both pieces. So I've got the bottom of this, and I'll add it to this too, just for the sake of the demonstration. Is adding texture, and I have all kinds of cool texture making tools, but even something as simple as a comb can be used to recreate the rivet lines of the cupcake mold if yours ended up kind of getting smoothed over. So I'm just putting the comb lines in, and then I'm adding some slip to kind of smooth it out, so that will pronounce them more, and that looks really good. In addition, you can add things to look like sprinkles. I've got a whole box full of texture making tools that you can use to press into your clay to make cool designs. Another example of what you could do with a comb. Some people like to add sprinkles on by slipping and scoring them on. So you could do kind of oversized sprinkles, and that's kind of a cool thing to do too. You could go ahead and carve into the side of your cupcake. And it's so little, you probably don't need to score the other side of it, but you could put like oversized sprinkles on it, all kinds of stuff like that. I think that is it for now. Enjoy making your cupcake top.